Welcome back, everyone. I am happy to share we passed our inspection for HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and framing. I wanted to do a quick walkthrough and show you some updates and some of the stuff that's been going on since we were last here, and give you a tour before the insulation and drywall goes up next week. So let's go. So we're really at the point in the process with plumbing and HVAC and electrical where it gets really hard to change after the drywall goes up. So we really tried to think ahead about some of the features that we wanted to add to the house and some of the things that we might need in the future. And one request was that we put in a 30 amp outlet for an RV. So on the side of the garage, if we ever get an RV, we'll have a place to plug that in. We also have lots of family members that could be coming to stay with us that have RVs and would like a place to plug in. So that is one thing that we thought we would go ahead and add. As we go into the garage, we'll have some LED lights in the ceiling. Made sure to put plenty of plugs on the wall for different things. Even put a plug on the wall where we think the refrigerator will go, over in that corner. As we get into our mudroom, we put 2 lights up here in the ceiling. One thing we really wanted to do is you can always dim the lights, but you can't add more lights. It's really hard to do that. So we maybe went a little bit overboard with some of our plugs and lighting and things, but we wanted to make sure that the house was bright and light and that we had power where we wanted it. Right down to this switch on the wall in the laundry room here that we can plug in our rechargeable vacuum so that we have a nice place to hang it on the wall. It'll be all nice and neat and kind of built in. As we move into the closet, we wanted to make sure that we had power in the closet in case we ever need to plug in an ironing board or anything. It's out of the way. And in the ceiling, we actually put in 3 lights. Now, 2 of those are going to be hooked up when we move in to LED lights. The third one there is just going to be a box that we can hook up a chandelier or something fancy in the future if we'd like. As we move into the bathroom, again, we wanted this to be nice and bright. So we've got lights in the ceiling. We'll have some sconces on the wall on each side of the transom window. And then another thing we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that we had plenty of light in our shower. And you'll see this as a theme as we go through this. This will be an LED light. It's actually got a built-in speaker that is Wi-Fi controlled. So if we want to play some music while we're in the shower, we'll have that ability. In each room, we wanted to add additional lights on top of our ceiling fan. We just didn't feel like ceiling fans give out enough light. So putting extra cans in the ceiling to be able to really light up the room if we need was something that we took into consideration. Another thing we tried to plan for is TV placement and where we think those will go on the wall. So anywhere that we knew we were going to put a TV, we had an outlet placed higher up on the wall so that we can hide all of our wiring behind wall TV mount. As we go from the master bedroom into the pocket office, we wanted to make sure that we had plenty of plugins and areas to put computers, tablets, perhaps some wireless audio amps, those sort of things. So we did have some extra outlets added to the pocket office. As we move out of the pocket office into the main living area, we did have a light above our dining area for a chandelier. And we put in 8 can lights in the kitchen to make sure that it's nice and bright. And we wanted these to be nice and symmetrical in nature when you're looking at the ceiling. But we also wanted to make sure that they were over key areas like our double oven or our cooktop so that we'll have puddles of lights where we need them. The other thing we did in the kitchen is we added 3 pendant lights that will hang down above the island. As we move into the great room, we took the approach that you can always take light away, but it's a lot harder to add it. So we actually added 10 recessed lights, 5 on each side of the great room. And then in the middle here, we will have a ceiling fan. And as we walk out to our screened-in porch, we wanted a couple of recessed lights up there in the ceiling, and we'll have a ceiling fan out here as well for that. Another thing to note is we plan on putting an outdoor TV in. So in this corner, they actually ran electrical underneath this beam here that will pop out into a little wall that's going to go there so that we can power our TV for outside entertainment. So Bailey has found her spot on the floor here. She's been running around outside. And one question that she has is, what chandelier should we put in the staircase? We have this great staircase. It's got a window. It's framed out. It's a very large area. It leads to the basement. And should we go with something rustic, minimalistic, something crazy and shimmery and glittery? We just don't know what to do here. So if you could put in the comments below or pictures, send us pictures of what you think we should add here, we'd really appreciate it. Here we have the front door. We'll have a lantern on each side of the front door for lighting on the porch. And there's also going to be a recessed light in the roof. And we did something a little unconventional for our doorbell. Typically that would be wired on this side of the door. We decided not to do that because we're going to have a Ring doorbell. And as you can see, if the Ring doorbell's on this side of the door, it's not going to be able to capture much. There's just not much there to see. And we don't really think that a lot of people are going to come up and ring the doorbell. So we did place it on the opposite side of the door, which is a little bit unconventional. But as you can see here, the Ring doorbell will be able to capture a lot more activity on our front porch and anybody coming down the driveway. So tell us your thoughts on, should we have moved this to the wrong side of the door, or did we make the right decision? As we go through this process, we're finding there's a lot of small little details like this that we've had to think through that we weren't necessarily anticipating until we meet with each of these contractors. They've all been great in helping us work through some of these items. Couldn't have done it without them. Next, we're moving to the place that everybody wants to see, and that is the guest suite side of the house. We'll start in the bathroom. We will have a light above the sink there. And one thing we decided to do with our vent fan, it's actually a light bulb in the vent fan. So once you see this with all of the drywall around it, it'll just look like there's a light in the ceiling, but it's actually our fan. And all of that gets vented out to the outdoors to keep the moisture out of the air. And as we've always said in every video, somehow the guest bathroom got the best view in the house. Next, we're moving into the guest room. We took the same approach in here of it's easier to add light now than later. So we put some can lights up in the ceiling along with our ceiling fan. The ceiling fans won't have lights on them, so that was another reason we wanted to go with some extra lights. And just like in the master bedroom, we did put an outlet up on the wall for a TV. So we're in the stairway, and again, if you have comments on what that chandelier should be up there, please let us know. And as we head to the basement, again, we put a lot of lights down here as well. We decided to go with 8 can lights in the ceiling, 4 on each side. The electrician that did this was meticulous with the wiring. I mean, everything is super clean and neat and straight. It's just fantastic. Over here in this corner, we also added a extra light that'll be a track light so that we can have directional lighting that will eventually go over a bar. So you can see here we roughed in plumbing for a sink. We have some extra outlets for anything we might need to plug in. And down here below, this is where we anticipate a small wine cooler or something like that going, so we can plug that in there. If you guys think that we went overboard with the lighting or didn't add enough, please let us know. We're looking for feedback. Again, this is our time to change things. Once the drywall goes up, it gets a lot harder. One last thing here in the great room basement, we did add an outlet for a TV on the wall. However, I will be building this out to be a faux fireplace, an electric fireplace, so eventually there'll be a TV with a fireplace below it. Next, we're going to move into the bathroom in the basement. You may have noticed that there's a surround down here, and the bathrooms upstairs did not have one. That's because we decided to save a little bit of money down here and use a standard surround where the bathrooms upstairs will be tiled. That being said, we did go ahead and go with the ceiling vent up here, the exhaust fan that looks like a light bulb in the ceiling, and it won't look like an actual fan. Can't wait to show those to you guys once everything's drywalled in there and you can see what that looks like. Next, we'll go into our third bedroom in the basement. It does have the nice sliding glass door. There'll be a carriage light that hangs on the wall outside out front there, and we did add a place for the TV. One thing that did happen as we were plumbing, we did have the basement built with 10-foot ceilings, but when they ran the plumbing through upstairs, it had to go through this room, and so they built this bulkhead. So it does kind of lower the ceilings a little bit when you first walk into the room. We were a little bit surprised that they didn't try to run that somewhere else, but I guess due to some codes and different things that they had to do with the plumbing, they had to run it through the room with a bulkhead. And so when it came time to add our ceiling fan down here, we did have to move it a little bit out of center from the room to make sure that it could spin around without hitting the wall there. And instead of a bunch of cans in the ceiling, since that would have looked funny and we've got HVAC and all kinds of stuff going on in this room, we did just go with a wafer light above the closet here. We feel like that'll add enough light down here. It kind of goes against everything else I've said in this video, but we'll also have some lamps on a switch here so that when you come into the room, you'll be able to turn on those bedside lamps and you'll have the wafer light above the closet. One other thing to point out is this is our air handler in the basement. So beyond this door is our unfinished space. We will have one air handler and intake in the basement. And then there's also a separate one for the upstairs so we can have dual climate zones and each one will run independent of each other. This space will be unfinished, but we did put a carriage light on the outdoor here. We had some outlets added around the room for power if we need it here. And then up here on the ceiling, we do have some lights that will get installed so that we have lighting in here. We're not really sure what we'll do with this space yet. It's a pretty big space. What are your ideas? What do you think we should do with this space? I'd like to hear the comments on that below too. People have said they'd put a pool table in here, make it a mother-in-law suite, maybe a theater room. It's a pretty large space, so we really just don't know what to do with it at this point. If we go out this exit, one thing I did want to point out on the exterior is we added a GFCI outlet way up there in the corner under the deck that leads to a switch upstairs in the living room. And that's so eventually I can run some deck lighting up under the rails and then possibly some low voltage lighting down to the lake if we ever get a path in here. So that's what that one was for. Again, trying to plan ahead of things you might want to do in the future that you're not going to build now so that you have power and water and air conditioning and everything where you need it. Last but not least for me is the workshop, and that will be in this area. And this will eventually be carriage doors. They'll open up nice and wide so that if I need to get tools or wood or anything like that into the space, I'll be able to do that. We also planned ahead in here. I had them add a sub panel for my shop, so if I ever need to add more power in here, or if we ever decide to run power down to the lake, we have a panel that's easy to get to and that we can run wires from. I also had them place 240 volt outlets in different places in the shop so that if I have bigger machines that take a special power outage or whatever, I'm not an electrician, I can plug in those bigger tools in some of those areas. And then I also had them put some outlets, I don't know how many inches those are, but they're about chest high up on the wall so that if I have workbenches or need to plug in tools, I'll be able to do that on the wall versus down low where you would typically see an outlet. The last thing I had them add is some outlets in the ceiling along with some lights. And really these serve as a way that I can run electric cords or spools from the ceiling so they're not dragging all around the shop. And I'll just be able to have a little bit cleaner area because the shop is not huge. It's going to work for all my needs, but organization is going to be key. So as you can see, Bailey is super excited about the progress and things are going to start happening very quickly. We'll have updates with drywall and insulation and all of that going on next week. So if you want to be the first to see those videos, please subscribe below so that you get the updates. Please like the video. Again, leave us comments of things that we can do better. And thank you for watching.